What's up, everybody? It's Hank here with Break MMA. Now, today, I was a little nervous about this one. Very rarely do I get nervous for interviews. And I was a little nervous about this one. You know, I am a huge supporter of Ink Master. I had Austin Rose on the show, good tattooer. I had Coach Christian, Turk, who was made it pretty far. Gonzo was supposed to come. I had Gonzo scheduled, and Gonzo is still going to come, but we had a little delay. But this was my pick to win, my favorite all season. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he is wearing a checkered shirt.
I do have one on. That's it.
The one and only Tiffer Wright.
What's up, everybody?
Now, there was a lot of big-time tattooers on this season. When you got there, who did you... I think there was a little clip of right as soon as it started, you looked at TJ and was like, I specifically want to take you on. And TJ was a sleeper. You know, a lot of people didn't see TJ... He kind of snuck up. You know, he didn't really shine the whole season, but there at the end, he started really shining. Where somebody like you looked good from day one to the last day. You looked good the whole time. There was that one challenge where the lion, I think it was, but I thought the lion was good.
Honestly, I think that the one challenge that got me, I think the most, was the reflection challenge, because that was probably the roughest critique I got all season, which was pretty. I was amazed because I was like, man, this is going to be the first time I'm going to the bottom, and I didn't go. So for me, I think the reflection with the space helmet with the earth, I think that's the one that really got me the most.
Yeah, which day was it that Kyle went home? Do you remember Kyle? You know Kyle. Which day? Do you remember the challenge?
Kyle went home on Pagoda, the Japanese temple.
Yeah, I remember that now. I thought Kyle was a big threat. He's a really good... This season was full of great tattooers.
For sure. I mean, and that's the thing is I think that there were a lot of amazing tattooers, but there were a lot of... And outside of this competition, every one of those tattooers that were on this season that were strong competitors are really awesome at what they do. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, Kyle, Jimmy, amazing traditional tattooers, solid fundamentals, like, awesome guys. And, I mean, as far as versatility, it was a little bit different. But, a lot of great artists this season. I was surprised myself.
Out of the girls, you know, Amanda and Angel and all of them, which one, in your opinion, is the best? Is it Amanda because she made it the farthest, or would you say maybe somebody else? That's hard for me to say because I can find some positives. To me, each one shines brighter than the other in their own right. So Tiara, I think she just got dealt a bad hand early on. I like Tiara.
She's an awesome illustrator. Her tattoos are super solid. Amanda, she's obviously got good fundamentals and a strong tattooing, but and Angel's got a lot of potential because she hasn't been tattooing for very long, and her black and gray is amazing. So you know what I mean? Each one of those girls has their own strengths and their own weaknesses. Stacy, believe it or not, has been, ever since she's been on the show, she's been pumping out a lot of really awesome, solid tattoos. So I think she actually learned more than the others as far as, you know, getting something out of the competition.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for growth, especially with the younger people. And how many years do you have in tattooing, by the way?
13 years.
13 years. How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
I was 17, and I got that tattoo I'll never cover it because it's a reminder, you know, of kind of where I started. But I was too young, so it was in somebody's house, and it's a tribal leg band, and I'll rock the shit out of that thing, dude.
Are you basically covered everywhere? Like you got sleeves and back, or you got some room? Or are you basically?
Most of the room I have available is like torso, back and torso. You know, I got my legs have a lot of work, and my arms, obviously. So what's left are like the shitty spots, I guess.
Oh, God, yeah. I've got my chest on the sides, like over your heart and over your pecs, but not that dead center crease in the middle yet, because that's a son of a bitch.
Yeah. No, I haven't. You know, honestly, I hate getting tattooed. I really do. Like, I love tattoos, and I love having them, but it takes a lot to get me in the chair because it is, like, not fun to me.
I'm in the same boat, and that's crazy, you know, because I have so many hours in the chair, and... You know, and people, the first thing they always ask me is, well, does it hurt? Of course it hurts. It hurts like shit, you know? And I hate it. I love that when it's done. That feeling you get like once you've set. And I don't know about you, but I like little bitty tattoos. Like a little one here. Like the best thing to do with a sleeve, really, kinda, in my opinion. If you're, I only have black and gray. I have no color nowhere. So
Right.
I just did like a little piece, a little piece, a little piece, and then linked them all together. You know, like something like that. So
Right.
the longest I ever liked to set was 2.5, 3 hours. I'm never one to sit for 5, 6 hours. I like to sit for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Come back a couple days later. When I got my sleeves, I remember I was going twice a week, every week for 6 months.
Dude, that's so much. Yeah, I mean, I used to be, so when I first started getting tattooed, I wanted big tattoos. I even wanted to do big tattoos. But the further I got into it, I was like, man, I mean, the last 2 or 3 that I've gotten have been like 2-hour bangers. And I'm totally cool with that. You know what I mean? If I could just fill up with these 2-hour bangers, like I'm super into it. I don't want to sit for, like you said, 5, 6 hours anymore.
What's your most painful? Because everybody, you know, I have my hand and my fingers and
Right.
Ribs and back and everything. And by far, my most painful one was my ribs. I almost couldn't take it.
Really? Yeah, see, I mean, I wouldn't even put those in my top 3, personally. I would have to say, and I'm glad I only have 2 of them because I would never do it again, is my feet.
I've hesitated to go there. I've got one, my armpits done too, and god damn, that was bad. That was pretty horrible.
Right. Yeah, the feet were brutal, man. I really thought after my first one, I was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm getting myself into, so the second one should be better. But as soon as I sat down, it was worse than the first one, and it took longer. So that for me is the worst.
Are you a black and gray fan, or color, or both? Do you have black and gray pieces on you and color pieces, or?
I've got both. I actually think that black and gray, and not even realism, just like bold black and gray tattoos, I think look amazing. Like somebody that's got predominantly black and gray on their body, I wish I would have done things differently, you know, getting tattooed, but I didn't. But I think just big, bold, black, whipped out tattoos I think they look sick. So honestly, that's kind of what I would prefer as far as getting tattooed.
So have you ever thought of, or you just have hesitated to go to the face? Because, you know, a lot of tattoo artists today, and I've actually thought about it, you know, not like my face, but maybe like a lower chin or somewhere
Right.
on top. But it's so common now. Used to, 10 years ago, the only people had their face tattooed was serial killers.
Yeah, you weren't getting your face tattooed 10 years ago if you didn't earn that shit some way.
But have you stayed away from the face for a reason, or you plan on maybe getting your face one day?
No, I mean, I've kicked the idea around a lot. I actually just, you know, I'm 35 now, and I waited till I was 33 to get my neck tattooed. So, I mean, up until then, I could cover up pretty much everything except for my fingers, you know. But I've kicked around the face a little bit. I think that everybody's convinced me not to do it. And, you know, I think still part of me still wants to get my face tattooed, but I have so much other space to fill. I feel like it would be a little bit of I don't know, like a cop-out. You know what I mean? I feel like I got so much other space to get big tattoos or to fill up first. So the face probably will never happen for me, but there's a little part of me that thinks there's still a chance.
I'm in the same boat, you know, because people ask me, obviously I'm dedicated. You know, I got both legs from the knee down, both arms, my hands, fingers, back, chest, everywhere except my face and neck and head and feet. And I've always said the same thing. Like, if I run out of room everywhere else, I might consider it.
Yeah, exactly. And even still, you're kind of like, well, I don't know for sure, but maybe we'll just have to see how it goes.
And you'd have to do something real simple. You know, like you can't do a dragon and a skull with a rose on your head. You got to do like a cross, a name. Like you got to go simple because your skin on your face isn't like the skin on your arm.
Yeah, you know, and I think if it's done right, it is pretty tasteful, honestly. Like, a friend of mine's got, like, a mandala that kind of comes around the ear a little bit, and it's just like a half of a mandala, so you don't see the whole thing, which I think actually looks really good. Another friend of mine has, like, a really fine line black and gray stemmed rose on the side, and I think that looks good. I mean, those are ideas that I've kicked around just because they're kind of classy. Even though it's a face tattoo, it still has, you know, there's some taste to it. as opposed to some of these others that I've seen recently where people are getting like giant roses on their cheeks and shit like that. You know, there's nothing classy about a big new school rose on the side of your fucking cheek.
6'9" all over your face.
Do what?
Like Tekashi 6'9" has 6'9", a huge bold 6'9" on his forehead. And his are actually done well. They're done well. They're just awkwardly placed.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I think it's the style and the subject matter that you choose that makes it fitting for a face or not. To each his own, live and let live. I'm going to always stand by that. Maybe I'll get one my face done, maybe not. Anybody else that does it, more power to them.
Oh yeah, I said go for it. If you want it, go for it.
Rock it.
Before you went into this, did you know a lot about Clean and Christian, or did you not really know much about either one of them?
So I knew more about Clean. I'm friends with a guy named Eddie that owns a shop in Vegas, and actually DJ Tamby works at that shop, so I know DJ pretty well. But I know about Clean mostly because of those guys, because I'll go to Vegas and guest spot. So I mean, I hear about Clean, or I'd heard about Clean prior to going on the show. I was familiar with his new school stuff. I wasn't as familiar with Christian. But I actually was more familiar, believe it or not, with TJ than I was anybody else. Actually, Matt Stebley, who didn't even make it on a team, which was crazy because Matt's amazing. So Matt and TJ, actually, I knew more about those two than I did anybody else when I got there, including the coaches.
Yeah, because Clean had been on a couple of seasons, and so did you watch Ink Master before you were on it, or no?
I watched. I watched maybe half of the seasons that they have.
Yeah,
so I haven't seen every season.
They've had quite a few. This one was 11, right?
11. Yeah, so I've probably seen 5 of the other 10.
So when it come time to pick the coaches and the teams and all that, did you know right away? In your honest opinion, is Clean better than Christian?
I think Clean is more versatile. And I think that we can see that throughout the season. You know what I mean? I think that we do see Clean do a little bit more variety of styles. Like when they had to do the 3 90-minute tattoos, I think Clean won 2 of the 3. But Christian's really honed in his skills in doing what it is that he does. Like he is concentrated mostly on that because, I mean, he can tattoo other styles, obviously. But I think he's really focused on doing the black and gray stuff, and obviously it shows because he freaking kills it. So I actually met Christian at the season 10 finale and talked to him at the bar for like an hour. So coming into into the first episode, I'd already built a little bit of a relationship with Christian, you know, and he looked at my portfolio and we were drinking and having a good time. So when I got there, I was like, man, I felt like I kind of already knew him. And we had a little bit of a pretty good rapport just from hanging out at the finale. And so I was going to go Team Christian. But I just, something in my gut, I don't know what it was. And maybe it was because I've talked to DJ and Eddie, you know, back at Bad Apple about Clean. Maybe I was just like hearing DJ or, you know, whatever it was. Something right at the very moment they said that I got to choose, I went with Clean because I was planning on going with Christian from the get-go.
Yeah, I've always been a huge Clean fan, even before he was a coach on the earlier seasons, and I got to sit down and talk with Christian on the podcast for like an hour, and he's actually a really good dude, opened up to me a lot. He was sipping a little something, so he was opening up a little bit. He was opening up a little bit more, but it was a really cool interview, you know, for somebody who he just met. He opened up a lot, talked about his daughters, you know, and other stuff like that. Christian's a good dude, and I picked Christian to win slightly, like in terms of MMA. I thought it would be like a split decision, you know, like super close.
Right.
So, and
it almost was.
Yeah, but I always thought Clean. I never thought Christian was gonna clearly win. You know, it was never gonna be a one-sided fight. It was always gonna be Christian won a challenge, and then Clean won. Then Christian won, then Clean won. It was so close all season.
Right. Yeah.
So the finale comes about, and it's down to you And I predicted this too. I said my top 5 would be you, Turk, Tony. I think I put the 2 brothers in there as well. So I got those 2 wrong. But I said TJ was a sleeper, but I didn't really think he was going to win. But I said he's a sleeper for sure. But the final 3, it was Tony, yourself, and TJ. Going into the finale, how did you feel you stacked up? Because in my opinion, and then you get on Twitter, you know, you look at Facebook, I'm sure, you were the overwhelming favorite to a lot of people. A lot of people were going Tiffer. You know, you had the best game plan, you had the best strategy, you had already proven yourself. It's like, you know, like I mentioned earlier, TJ done really good towards the end, but towards the beginning, he was just kind of blending in. And Tony done really good the whole time, but there at the end, he was kind of a little, you know, going down a little bit.
And both of those guys found themselves in the bottom, I think, a couple times earlier on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was confident going into the finale. I probably won. I don't know this, but you know, based on social media and a lot of people that really have watched the show and know, you know, a lot of the background of Eating Master. Like, I kept seeing a lot of tweets about I had been the most consistent artist that's ever been on the show. I mean, I had 4 tattoo of the days. I think maybe 5 tattoo of the days. I don't know if anybody's ever won more than 4 or 5 in one season before. And I only was in the bottom once. And that was when we were in the top 5. You know, that means 3 of the top 5 are going to the bottom. You know, only 2 are not.
Right.
So, you know, I made it all the way to the top 5 before even going to the bottom once, and I was immediately safe. So, I mean, I felt good going into the finale because I had a great, and I know report cards don't matter, but I had a good report card. You know, and I had been consistent and versatile. I was a little stressed out because my master canvas was having a pretty tough time. A couple of sessions, I lost, you know, probably an hour or 2 each of those sessions that you know, I just wasn't able to work completely through the time frame we had. And I think it showed a little bit. I was super pumped with the finale piece. There were some things that it wasn't unfinished, but there were some things that I would have liked to have done had I had the time. And I think it would have made a little bit of a difference. But then again, it may not have made any difference because I didn't even make it to the top 2, you know, which that's where I got super bummed. Because I think that the jury of peers was a little bit of a flawed system. You've got 8 people left on Team Christian.
Yep.
So you got 7 people on Team Clean that are going to vote between 2 artists. And you've got 8 on Team Christian that can vote for 1. You know, so it was almost like based on the jury of peers, it was almost a guarantee that TJ had a spot no matter what.
That's what when I was watching it, I was like, it's so unfair because almost every single, the jury of the peers, all was TJ's friends. And it's not like they're going to go, okay, we want Tiffer and Tony. They both represent Clean. We want at least one representing Christian.
Yeah, of course. You know, and so I was bummed out about that because, you know, I knew because of what they had given me for that 6-hour collab, the realistic line, I knew that was going to be, I mean, Chris Nunez said it, it's a kiss of death. You know, to try to do a color photorealistic line in 6 hours on that stage is damn near impossible. So I knew that if TJ got a spot, odds are I wasn't in because it was a photorealistic line versus, you know, Tony's piece, which was had a little more freedom. You know what I mean? My 6-hour tattoo was the only one that was judged against a photo.
So,
you know,
so you had you had to work with Clean on the lion, right?
Right.
And then you had, what was the other one you did by yourself? That was the
bear and the salmon. It had kind of the ornate, kind of Art Nouveau frame around it. So yeah, I was bummed about that, man. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from TJ or Tony, obviously, because those guys all earned their spot. They're both awesome tattooers and great competitors. I think that the jury of peers system was a little flawed, so I think I was more bummed out about. Honestly, if it had come down to me and Tony, I would have been stoked if Tony won. I just felt like I should have at least been in the top 2, you know, based on the 6-hour tattoos. But I just think that that was going to be a tough call.
I've referenced it a lot too. Come back to MMA because that's normally what I follow.
Right.
Do we judge it? You say your report card. Your report card is like, if we're judging it like grades A, B, and then you got like a B on the finale, and we'll just say that. We'll just say a B instead of an A. Do you judge the whole season, or do you just judge the finale? Because like with fights, like if we fight for 5 rounds, do we judge each individual round? Which that's what the rules say. You judge each round by round, just like you judge each episode by episode. But when you get to the finale where it's just you, TJ, and Tony, I believe you have to take the whole season into account. You have to take how many times you've won Tattoo of the Day. Have you been to the bottom more than them? And really get down and, okay, yes, his tattoo had this or didn't have this or was flawed or wasn't, but in our honest opinion, who is better? And that's where, and I've talked with Christian, who's a coach, and who got screwed a couple times on there.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's like, very rarely does the best tattooer win. He said Ink Master is a great show, but they've just got this reputation of the best tattooer doesn't always win. Obviously, the jury appears, it was either going to be you or Tony going home. TJ was getting in that final 2.
Definitely. Sure. Most definitely.
And then when it happened, I personally thought you should have won. But I'm biased, of course. I picked you to begin with. But I'm judging, like you said, I'm judging the whole report card. I'm not just judging this one grade. I'm not just judging the finale, which Tony, if you judge just the finale, Tony deserved to win because he fucking killed it in the finale.
His back piece was amazing, and I told him that. I was like, "Damn it, Tony! Why the fuck did you do so good?" Now I like that. I knew when I saw it, and I told him, and he knows how I feel about his tattoo, because he did a badass job, man. But yeah, I agree with you though. I mean, if Ink Master is about being Ink Master, then you've got to take into consideration the entire season. Because then you got somebody who. And not that that's what happened at all this season. I'm just saying, but for example, someone could have skated through, been in the bottom 3 or 4 times, but never really went home, never got a tattoo of the day, but just kind of barely skated by and got lucky, and then did one really awesome tattoo in the finale. Boom, and they win. But that's not what Ink Master's supposed to be doing. They're not choosing who had the best finale piece. They're choosing the Ink Master, which was somebody who, like you said, could do all these different styles that they were challenged throughout the season. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it would be nice, but like you said, they're not always known for – the winner doesn't – the best tattooer doesn't always win. And we've seen it time and time. And Clean's lost 3 times, and Christian's lost a couple times. And we've seen people win and lose that shouldn't have won or lost. So, it's just how the game goes, but – I do think that the report cards should maybe matter a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. You can't just go by, like you said. I mean, no offense to TJ. I like TJ a lot. I hope to get him on the podcast too. I'm trying to reach out to all of them. But he was like, through the first, we'll say 5 episodes, he was just average, and then he stepped it up. So do you count that? Do you count that he was just okay for a couple episodes, then he was great, and greater? Or do you say, well, it doesn't matter, we just judge the finale?
Yeah, and I think TJ's thing was because he specializes in such a his style is so specific, and it's so. I mean, I think that TJ was just having a hard time finding his bearings in this environment. You know what I mean? Because I don't think TJ is not good at doing other styles. I just think that TJ just couldn't figure out how, because the judges, they keep saying, no background, sticker-like tattoos, simple as key, and I think for some people that's hard. Even Turk had a hard time simplifying. I mean, obviously we know Turk can draw and tattoo like a badass, but, being able to, and that's the thing about this competition also is, it's not just about tattooing, but it's how well you adapt. It's a lot of it's mental, and that's why you see good tattooers go home early.
Yeah, I reached out to a couple of people after the finale because I DVR it, and I watched it the next morning, and I reached out because I've talked to Tony a couple times on Twitter, and Tony said he is going to come on. But I'd been asking him like a month or two ago, and he told me that he didn't want to commit until after, he didn't basically want to tell me I won, basically, you know what I mean? He didn't. Right. He couldn't disclose that information at that point in time. So I of course understand, but I'm gonna hopefully get him on the podcast. But through the whole season, it was pretty obvious that Tony, yourself, was the top two, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, Tony and I were. I think Tony had a couple of bobbles early on, but he bounced back super quick. And I don't think even the couple of little bobbles early on that he had were even that major. It's pretty minor stuff. I think Tony stayed super solid and consistent and, kept his head in the game. He was pretty good. I think that's one of the things that Tony had that some of the other guys didn't, was having that mental strength to pull through.
Yeah, what I was going to say, I just remembered it. I reached out to a couple people after I'd watched it. I reached out to Tony and told him, of course, congratulations. That was a solid win. And I reached out to you, and I was like, you didn't really lose. You still won. And like you told me, you've been on the ESPN show you just did or something like that, and I'm sure you've been hit up for media and obligations, and your shop's been going crazy. You didn't really lose. You didn't win, but you didn't lose at all.
No, and I don't think anybody really loses. I mean, if you go on eMaster and you make it 2 episodes in, like, people are still going to have seen you on TV. You're going to get your name out there, and people are going to learn about your craft. And, so I think nobody really loses. For me, I was pretty busy and had a pretty decent following before going on the show. So not that I would appreciative of getting more of a following, but for me, I just wanted to win. It wasn't about getting a following or anything like that. I mean, I'm a competitor, so I just wanted to go on to say that I fucking won, and that was my mindset.
It was definitely a good season. It ranks right up there with the great seasons. What was your which challenge did you like the best? The Flash challenges. I like the one personally with the spider and the chalk on the wall. That was really cool.
Yeah, the chalk and the wood burning.
That's what I was gonna say. The wood burning too.
Yeah. Those two are my favorite. And they're partially my favorite because we all worked so well on those 2 challenges. We had more people on the spider challenge, but we fought a lot. There were a lot of conflicting personalities as far as like getting together and coming up with a solid game plan for the Flash challenges on our team. So we worked so well on the chalk. And there was only 3 of us on the wood burning, so that was a lot easier to find a common ground and start on a project as soon as possible. But both of those were awesome. And both end products were awesome too.
Oh yeah, that was like some of it. You look like when you first start, you have to re-look it. Like, how the hell did you manage to make it look like that?
When they showed them on TV, I still was like, how the fuck did we do that? Like, I still was pretty shocked. I mean, even after going through all of that and seeing them air and watching the episode air and looking at them like, wow, I really still don't know how we pulled that out of our ass. That was pretty amazing.
So you mentioned Christian reached out to you. You've talked to Christian. I'm sure you said you knew a couple of them already, but I'm sure you've made some good friends from the show, like Kyle, Jimmy, Clean, all those. I'm sure you reach out to them. Have you hung out with any of them or been with them since the show?
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's already been down here to Dallas to stay with me for a week and work at the shop, and that was a month or 2 ago. And then Kyle, and then after Jimmy left, talked to Kyle about coming down. He just hadn't made plans yet. Chris Shockley plans on coming down here pretty soon. I'll actually be at Turks in San Diego in February for a week, and then TJ and I are going to get together and do a collab.
So you have no bad blood at all towards TJ? You and Tony were friends the whole time. You and Tony were friends from the get-go.
We still are. Tony just was here recently also.
Yeah, but so you have no ill will towards anybody in the show?
No, I don't. I mean, I know that there are some of the guys feel like other guys from the opposing teams kind of like have been a little bit of a fence walker or whatnot. Nobody's really come out and said anything to me directly that's made me feel that way. So, until they do, I got no problems with anybody. I feel like everybody I got along with everybody pretty well. And as long as they want to, do stuff that's, TJ and I want to do this collab because I think it'd be super awesome. It would be a collab that has, his style mixed with mine would be pretty rad. It's something you wouldn't, don't see a lot of. As long as people are out there wanting to make moves and surround themselves with like-minded tattooers, like trying to get themselves out there and do some big things, and that's what I'm about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people like drama, like the show. You know how the show makes it look. They want to make it drama-filled, and like with Turk and Christian's little rivalry, they had a little bit. But I think for me and a lot of fans, I believe, why we liked you and we obviously gravitated towards you is because you came in and, we've been talking for about 30 minutes now, and you're the exact same. You came in and you was like, I'm Tiffer, I'm a good tattooer, and I'm here to fucking win. I'm not here to do anything else. And you tried hard on the challenges, one tattoo of the day a lot, and you just had that attitude as, I'm here to fucking win, go to bed, wake up, and win again.
Yeah, I mean, I try to just, and that's the thing is people were giving me shit on the show, and I know part of it was in good fun, and maybe some of it was out of frustration because I was being, consistently doing so well in the beginning. But they were giving me shit, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing anything other than what I know how to do. Like, I didn't come in here to play any crazy games or, to get mixed up with all this shit that you guys want to, all this strategy stuff. Like, I'm just here to do good tattoos, and that's all I'm trying to do. So all these times that I'm getting tattoo of the day and being consistent, it wasn't me doing anything other than just sitting in that booth and like concentrating on the tattoo, and I'll go back on what you said a little bit because there is some bad blood still though with some of the guys from either team, and I'm kind of friends with both sides, so I try to stay out of it.
You definitely,
which is also what I did all season. I've tried to stay out of it,
Oh, yeah, this is kind of the best thing is everybody else is strategizing and trying to strategize, and you're just worried about tattooing. That's
it. And if they ever ask me back, I'm going to do the same shit. I'm going to go in there, and all I'm going to do is worry about tattooing, and it's going to take me to the end just like it did this time.
So I don't know if you mentioned anything on the show about it or not, but what made you want to become a tattooer? Like, you said you're 35, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any kids?
I have a 13-year-old son.
Oh, damn. Are you married and all that?
Do what?
Do you have a wife?
I have a fiance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a father of 3. I have a wife, and I have 3 kids, all under 3. And, we don't, oh, God, yeah. 2 boys and a girl. And we just don't get to see a very personal side of you, on the show. So, what's...
right.
Just give me a little personal story, like a little, what made you personally want to get into tattooing, and why do you love it?
I mean, it's going to sound pretty crazy, and I don't tell a lot of people this, and it's just because there's so much bad, I don't know what the word is, but you just got a lot of people that look down on how certain people entered into this industry. You've got a lot of old school tattooers who are really set on, you've got to do it this is the way it has to be. But it's not written anywhere that tattooing is supposed to be is done in any way. You know what I mean? There's just that mindset of a lot of these old school tattooers and even some of the new school tattooers that are, the young guys that are still trying to keep that mentality going as opposed to letting tattooing just naturally progress, which it has been over the last 10 years. But I raced professional supercross and motocross for 6 years. I had a lot of injuries one year, and that same year was when I had my son. And so it was just kind of time to do something, maybe take a step back and do something that's not so, I don't know, something a little safer and something that's going to, that I don't have to worry about injuring myself, and I can take care of my kiddo. My dad, honestly, he's been my main supporter no matter what. He was my mechanic and my trainer and my financial backing during my motocross days. And he came to me. I've been an artist my whole life, and I was already an enthusiast of tattoos and been getting tattooed for several years at this point. And he just told me, he's like, hey, I think 10 years from now, tattooing is going to be big. He's like, what do you say we open up a shop? And I was like, you don't have to ask me twice. So that's what we did. 2005, I opened up my first shop in Lubbock, Texas, small town, and ran that shop for 8 years before moving to Dallas. So it's kind of weird. I didn't, actively seek out an apprenticeship necessarily. I did have an apprenticeship. It was pretty bogus. The guy didn't really teach me anything. He was kind of a piece of shit, and a thief, and stole from us in the shop and whatnot. But so I kind of got into it, a little bass backwards, but I don't regret it. I think it'd be stupid for anybody to say that I don't deserve it because I didn't do it the right way. I've come a long way in 13 years. So I actually quit tattooing 4 years ago because I was still in Lubbock. Small town, didn't feel like I was going anywhere, wasn't making good money, couldn't support a family or anything like that. So I actually quit and went to school for radiology tech. And a good friend of mine told me I was an idiot and that I should just, get out of Lubbock, give it one more shot, travel a little bit, and see how it goes. And that'll be 4 years in February that I moved to Dallas. I sold everything. I finished my semester in school, sold my dirt bike, my truck, everything, all my toys, and moved to Dallas. And 4 years later, here we are.
So it runs a lot deeper for you than just putting ink in skin.
Yeah, I mean, I went from one dream to the next, no backup plans, and almost quit tattooing, was burnt out, wasn't doing well, didn't feel like it was really something that I couldn't retire on it for sure, the rate I was going. So, yeah, I quit, lost my love for it for a little while, and, was convinced to come back, and I buckled down the last 4 years and really worked my ass off. Now I've got a private studio in Dallas that's doing really well. I've got a great backing and a support system. I just got engaged to my girlfriend. I was actually going to propose to her on stage at the finale had I won. I was fully prepared for that. Had the ring in my pocket and everything. So maybe that was why I was mostly disappointed. Wasn't that I didn't win, but that I didn't get to do it on stage.
I seen the picture afterwards. I did see the picture.
Yeah, I waited until we got home, and we had a big watch party, and all our friends were there, and I had some cheesy speech about I may not have won, but I still won, kind of a situation, and so yeah, the last couple of years have been just a huge skyrocket and blessings for me,
Yeah, it's always good for us as fans, and not just fans, but people, because we're just regular people, just because you're on TV, you're famous. A lot of people get
that don't mean shit.
Yeah, this conception is because you're on TV, like you're different, but you're the same as everybody else. That
right.
But we don't get many personal, in-depth looks just through a 60-minute episode. Like when I had Turk on, I specifically wanted to talk about his son with autism, and
right.
We kind of had a moment, there with each other. And actually, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, my entire world was turned upside down, when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And a lot of, you'd think just something like tattoos couldn't hold you together or bring you together, but just something as simple or as little as that can bring hope in any kind of situation, whether it's like you said, you were broke and didn't have money and gave up on your dream of motocross, or whether it's cancer or autism, whatever it is. There's always something that can help you overcome it, or at least if not overcome it, feel better about it for the moment. Right.
Yeah. Just something that kind of lets you set it aside and focus on what's important, and everybody's got shit going on in their lives. Nobody's just skating through life unscathed. Everybody's got something at some point. So I'm glad you asked me about all that stuff, because I want everybody to understand, like you said, that everybody that's been on the show, like, we all had stuff going on. There was a point halfway through the season, I had some shit going on at home that was really upsetting and really bothering me. And I told the producers, like, I got to go home. Like, I almost just bailed, kind of like Oba had to do, you know, for his health. Mine wasn't health related, mind you, but halfway through the season, I almost left. You know, and that was around the time that you kind of see me take a little dip, and they don't show that. They don't show, you know, what might be affecting each one of us mentally with things that are going on at home or in our personal lives, you know, because just because we're there filming doesn't mean we don't have other lives still moving forward outside. So, you know, everybody had to deal with stuff, and we all still do, you know. So I think that it's important to remember that like you said, we're all one and the same. You know, just because one person's on TV doesn't mean they don't have their trials and tribulations. It doesn't mean we can't common ground and helping each other get through that shit.
Yeah. So I remember I asked Austin Rose how he got on the show, and he said that they heard of him and reached out to him through there. How did you get on? Did you send them a tape or something, or did they reach out to you? How did it come up? How did the show come about? And what was your overall opinion of the show? How do you think it made you look? And do you think it was? I asked Christian, you know, and Austin and Turk, and they all said that it was probably 60% real, 40% fake. You know, how in your opinion, how did the show? How different is it than in real life when they're filming, and then what we see?
So they emailed me. And that was the third email that I had received from eMaster. 2 years ago, a friend of mine, Kevin Leroy, was on. I think it was on season 9. And they had reached out to me for season 9. I went through the interview process, and it never went past like the Skype interview that I had. And they emailed me again. I decided that I didn't want to do it. This was probably a year later. I was like, no, I don't think I want to mess with it. And then this last time, my assistant, you know, she was like, hey, they emailed you again. Why don't you just try one more time? So I went ahead and I mean, it was smooth sailing all the way through the process this third time around. But honestly, I would probably have to say that I think that it's more 70-30, maybe even 80-20.
Oh, on the real side.
Because I mean, first of all, I feel like they portrayed me the way that I hoped that they would. And they're only going to make you look a certain way if you give them – if they're making you look like a snake, that's because all you did was give them –
Footage
to make you look like a snake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I try to just play it straight like we talked about earlier and just mind my own business. And so I'm pretty happy with the way that I was portrayed throughout the season. You know, I'm fairly humble, I'd like to think. And so I was happy with that. I think that they made me look like I hoped. That's how I am in real life, so I was stoked about that. But I do think 80%, maybe 70%. Because everything that there's an argument about on that show comes from a real place. You know, if Tony and I are sitting there talking about a tattoo that Chris Shockley did, and you're mic'd up all day long. So I may not be telling Chris this, but I may just be talking to Tony personally in his booth. I'm like, man, did you see that shit that Chris did? That thing's bogus. Right. It looks like shit. You know, well, they're going to come up to me later. They're going to say, hey, Tiffer, do you want to, you know, you said earlier today that Chris's tattoo sucked. Do you want to tell him that it sucked? and I can say yes, I'll tell him it sucked, or I'll say no. You know, if I say no, then I get no airtime. That part of being on the show is making sure that you're seen, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think in the beginning, a lot more people were willing to do this stuff. And so you're like, and it was a little bit tough because you didn't know how everybody was going to react, you know? So they would say, hey, Tiffer, you want to tell Chris's tattoo sucked? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll tell him. And they'll be like, hey, Chris, I'm going to put you in a scene with Tiffer. He's going to tell you your tattoo sucked. Just a heads up. And so when I tell him that it sucked, I genuinely thought it sucked.
Yeah. And
he can respond to me genuinely how he feels about my response to his tattoo. So, I mean, that part of it is all real. It's not scripted. They're not making us fight with each other. If we don't want to argue, and let's say Chris takes it really personal, the next time I say something and they come up and say, hey, Tiffer, do you want to tell Chris's tattoo? So I'll be like, no, I don't. Because he's going to take it personally and I don't want to deal with that tonight or whatever. So, I mean, all of those scenes come from a real place. And sometimes they get a little bit more heated than you expect them to, but nobody's acting. You know, there wasn't a scene where you know, Christian came up to me and told me that I was going home, that I dropped the ball, and I'd jump all over his case. That wasn't acting. I was genuinely like, well, fuck you, Christian. You know, you want to come at me like that? Like, I've been consistent. And so that stuff is all real. You know, and that's pretty tough, because at the end of that, when we're demiked, it's like you need to be able to set that shit aside and know that you're doing it for TV. But it doesn't mean that it was fake. It just means, you know, we're putting on a show.
You give the people what they want.
Exactly. So let's have a beer and leave it at the door.
Christian defined it as they don't tell you what to do. They don't give you a script, but they do little things to aggravate you. You know, like, you know, they'll.
Oh, for sure.
He's like, first of all, there's free alcohol. That right there is a problem.
People actually, that is not the problem. I don't know what I would have done without the free alcohol.
You got people drinking and people arguing, but yeah, he was just like, they do little, like you said, you know, they'll tell you, hey, Chris said your tattoo sucks, so then of course you're going to get pissed and want to say something. He's just
right.
Like, they do these little things to make you aggravated at each other for good TV.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, and you're living with these people, you know, like you're living with these people day in and day out. You don't leave, you sleep in the same room. So, I mean, you know, everybody's kind of on edge already anyway. They're missing home, their girlfriends, their families, whatever, their kids. So, I mean, yeah, all of those things combined are what create these attitudes and these moods that give this reality TV that you see. But it comes from a real place. There's no script. They don't make you do it. You know, so I think that a lot of people misinterpret that. They think, oh, this is so scripted. But it's very real. You know, like you said, they just poke at you to get it out. And then they poked at you enough that you finally just say, fuck it. And, you know, you start yelling at somebody. So, yeah, it might be a little over the top at times, but it's certainly coming from a real place.
Overall, though, did you have fun? Like Christian said it was a blast. Austin said it was a blast. Overall, did you have fun?
I did. I had a blast. You know, and I mean, especially in the beginning when things were all so new, I just kept looking around and like, dude, we're on TV. I mean, we're making TV. Like, how cool is this? Yeah. You know, like how many people get to say that they've done this or that. And so in the beginning, you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I got poor connection, but if you can hear me,
we're good. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, in the beginning, I was so hyped, and you know, and it starts to wear on you, but you still have a blast. You've made friends. You're outside drinking on the patio. You're playing pool or whatever. You're drawing in the room. So I mean, you're still having a good time. It has its ups and downs for sure, but I did have a blast, and I think that right after the finale, I was so bummed and a little pissed off. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'll never do this shit again. If they ask me to come back and do a grudge match with TJ, you know, I'll tell them to fuck off. Like I was pretty bitter, honestly. But I've had time to let it soak in a little bit and chill out, and my life's kind of getting back to normal, and I would definitely do it again.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people would be interested in that, and I was going to ask you if you would consider doing it again, and you just answered it. You probably would, because it's a really cool experience. You know, you get a lot of exposure, and like we said earlier, you didn't lose. You didn't win first. You ultimately, you know, you came in third, but if you think about it, that's very, very good. And in a lot of people's eyes, you were first. You deserved that first place, and you didn't lose by any means.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think it just took some time for everything to set in, for me to believe that. You know, I thought the fact that I didn't win meant that I just straight up lost. I was like, man, as soon as I didn't win, I was like, I just wasted however many months of my life, and wow, what a waste of time. So I think it just took a little bit of time of letting everything soak in for me to really understand that I still won. You know what I mean? I didn't lose really anything at all. And yeah, I would do it again. And there's a lot of things I would do differently now, because I kind of know a little bit more. Having been there and done that, I feel like I could navigate through the whole system a lot better. Know the things that I should or shouldn't do, or maybe speak my mind a little bit more when I didn't in the past. And so, I mean, not only would I do it again, but I would do it a little bit differently. The only thing that would be the same is just doing good, solid tattoos.
Yeah, and we mentioned that all the other shows that are reaching out to you and all the other platforms you're getting on, interviews, podcasts, people want to talk to you, they want to get you on their show, and I just want to personally thank you for taking the time to come on and talk to me.
Absolutely, dude. I really appreciate it. Like I said, sorry it took so long, but you just had to let everything settle down first, and I knew I'd be on here eventually.
Oh, yeah. It's tough when you're a star.
I don't know about that, but I'll take your word for it.
Are you more well known for the checkered shirts than anything, probably?
Oh my gosh, that is definitely a thing.
That's the first thing I said.
Dude, people were tweeting and everything. They were like, "I can't wait to see what kind of checkered Tiffer wears." And, are you sponsored by Vans? And I mean, there was checkered tweets. I had somebody message me recently asking if I would sign and sell them one of my checkered shirts, and which I didn't because they wanted my favorite one, and I didn't want to give it up. But but yeah, the checkered thing has become a staple. Yeah.
It's crazy, you're known, and well, you're known for obviously tattoos in the show, but when they think Tiffer too, if you're like knowledgeable of the show and everything, the first thing that comes to mind is checkered shirt.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the first thing you said whenever I signed in.
I can testify he is wearing a checkered shirt right now. Well, Tiffer, I thank you so much, man, and I'm gonna let you get off here, but if you're not too busy in the future, maybe in a couple of months, I'll have you on again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, there's a lot of big things kind of happening. I just did the ESPN show, which was a blast. So, I mean, I'm sure here in a couple of months we'll have more to talk about, and I'd be glad to be back.
Yeah, I thank you so much, Tiffer, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, bud. Have a happy New Year as well.
You too, man. Be careful.
All right.
Oh. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Tiffer Wright. He's a good dude. Good dude. We talked a lot about tattoos, the show, how the show portrays. Tiffer was just a really good dude all season. But I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with this season 11 of Ink Masters' third place winner, Tiffer Wright. Whether you think he deserved first, second, or third, he's one of the top three. And that's fucking crazy. That's insane to say I was one of the top 3 best tattooers on that show. And in my opinion, if you judge the whole show from episode 1 to finale, Tiffer is Ink Master. But if you just judge episode by episode by episode, and then the finale as a whole thing by itself, Tony is the winner. But like he mentioned about the jury of peers were not going to let 2 Team Clean guys go up there. We were going to see 1 Team Clean and 1 Team Christian. There's only 1 Team Christian, so what does that tell you? But I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was a really cool one for me. I was really nervous. I like Tiffer a lot. I was a big fan of his, still am. And we'll have him on the podcast again soon. See you guys.